afternoon we took a tour of a really small whiskey distillery called Abhainn Dearg. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Gaelic, and when you translate it into English, it basically means the Red River, and that's because the distillery is next to the Red River here on the Isle of Lewis. They do actually bring in some of their water that they use as part of the whole process from said river, so it makes the name of the whiskey distillery very apt. There's at least 2 distilleries on the Isle of Harris and Lewis. One on the Isle of Harris is a lot more well known, and they also sell the gin as well. But that one's shut at the moment. But 2, we've done some alcohol tasting and tours of places in the past, most notably when we went to Abhainn in France a few years ago. What we actually found was touring the much smaller champagne houses was a much better experience than going to the really, really big ones. So it seemed appropriate that we would choose a really small distillery to go and tour today, and it was a fantastic experience. We got taken into these different, I suppose, warehouses would be the best way to describe them, but they were very small. And the first one was the procedure where they take the barley and they have a peat fire, which obviously is what helps to make Scottish whiskey so special. They have that sort of smoking out the barley and drying it out. And it was interesting to learn that the percentage of moisture, I suppose, that's in the peat, they want it to be higher when they're smoking the barley, whereas when they are wanting to dry it out, they want for that peat to be drier, because then it doesn't cause the same sort of smokiness, I suppose. We then went into another warehouse where we could see the process where it goes into like all of the different casks and what happens there, and we could see how they've been really affected through COVID-19 and not being open. There'd been the issues with the barrels sort of falling in on themselves, because they had one where there was water being fed into it just to try and push it back out. And then the last warehouse that we went into was where all of the barrels were being stored, so it was quite a party for the senses. The first one's super smoky, the second one that we went into was a little bit on the humid side, and then the third one that we went into, you could just smell the alcohol in the whiskey. And that was really cool in there, because all of the barrels were of different sizes and they had different colours on them, and she explained that the colours were representative of the year at which they were made. The distillery is quite new, it opened in 2008, and they still had plenty of barrels that were 2008. They were the orange ones right down at the very back. The tour then concluded with some whiskey tasting, but being kind of in the middle of nowhere on the island, I think they're aware that a lot of people do drive, and so she said, well, we can make up some shots for you guys to take away. So now that we're back at our Airbnb, I'm going to have a go at some of the tasting. So the first whiskey that I'm going to try, this one came from a Madeira barrel. We were told so much on the tour, it was really difficult to take it all in, but I think it might be that this has come from a barrel that was previously used for wine in Portugal. So here goes. It's still very making me feel like a dragon that wants to breathe fire through my nose. Ooh. Okay. I've still got 3 more to go. It's nice, it's just a burn. Okay, and then the next one is a Rioja. Or not a Rioja, I'm not drinking wine. It came from a Rioja barrel, so again, I think from a Spanish wine barrel that had been used previously for that. This one you can see is just a little bit different in colour, a little bit more orange. Now, I don't know if it's just that one doesn't burn as much as the Madeira, or if it's just that the Madeira has kind of burnt out some of the nerve endings. I'm not too sure. But the next one is probably the one that I'm most looking forward to, so I'm going to skip this one. And I'm going to go on to the 10-year one, which has come from an American bourbon barrel, and because it's called 10 years, it means that it's been sat in that barrel for 10 years before then going through the next part of the process. So this one is definitely the lightest in colour out of all of them. To me, in my very poor palate, it just it just smells exactly the same as all of them, like alcohol. Again, the burning just isn't as much, and that's actually got a much smoother taste than the other ones. It's probably my favourite one so far, but the one that I was quite excited about was, I think it's pronounced Sauternes. This one is a dessert wine that comes from France, and she did sort of warn that whilst it does smell incredibly sweet, it doesn't taste quite as sweet as what it smells, but I do quite like my dessert wine, particularly ice wine from Canada, so this is the one that I'm most excited by, hence why I saved it until last. So let's have a go. Oh yeah, that really smells sweet. Oh, oh wow. Oh, right, that one burns. I should have saved that one until last. That was definitely the nicest one, the 10-year one. Oh, my face has probably gone bright red. But that's me and my whiskey taste testing done. It's now my partner's turn to have a go, but not on camera. I'll just put you through this once.